All right, I am here with
Brian Gorman.
Brian Gorman, and you did 2 talks today on Sunday. One you already have done, which was on design patterns, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so what did you specifically go over? I ran into your room to do like a little video, and you were doing something with like almost a game scenario. That was a little bit of what I caught. But so what did you go through in the presentation?
Well, what I did was I took 3 common design patterns that we encounter in object-oriented programming. Strategy pattern, factory pattern, and then the decorator pattern. And I used the Star Wars universe as kind of a base background, kind of a game scenario of we have some different character classes, we have some different races, there are species that we need to apply to it. And we ended up doing some strategy pattern to do some attack and defend behaviors, injecting those in at runtime. And then we went on and covered the factory pattern to actually generate the character classes and their species, so we could have just one base character, and we can inject in the character species and the character class, so they can be interchangeable, like a Wookiee who's a Jedi, or a human who's a smuggler, like Han Solo or whatever.
Okay.
And then we decorated some weapons to show composition of weapon objects, so they could become more powerful as you went on. Building went from a blaster to a blaster rifle, a blaster cannon. Instead of having each one be their own subclass, we had just one class for the base type, and then just decorated the types as we went.
Okay. So my take on design patterns is, that there's the Gang of 4 book. That's the considered canonical text of design
Absolutely.
patterns. At the same time, though, I see people really overuse them, or say like, well, do you know design patterns? And if you don't know all of them, well, then you're just not worth it as a developer. Where it seems kind of backwards in a way, where they're tools, but they're not the silver bullet. They're not going to solve every problem that you're going to run into. Would you agree with that, or?
I absolutely agree with that statement, and especially we kind of addressed this actually in the talk towards the end. Someone had asked the question of where do you draw the line, because there are so many patterns, and the more you spend on that, and it's kind of a catch-22. If you have code in place, I recommend that if you're learning a pattern, don't try to go fix your code, because you're going to end up refactoring so much code. What I recommend is starting small, learn the pattern, do it to a new system, new code, and then see where you might be able to easily interchange something that you already have in place. As far as just going overboard, absolutely. And honestly, a design pattern is a structure, it's a pattern.
Right.
And so it's almost more like the people who really need to know this would be your architects and your senior developers. And those people should probably be responsible for helping your junior developers and your younger developers come in to learn that. And they'll come in and they'll see the code and be like, what are all these interfaces for?
Yeah.
And we'll be like, this is why we do this way. Because you're used to learning this in school, and in school you're cranking out projects and you're just learning what an array is, let alone how you might go about applying some kind of factory to code.
Right.
So absolutely, I believe that the architects and the people that are a little bit higher up need to make those tougher calls as to where you should stop the line of, okay, we've got this pattern, and ultimately, at some point you have to break the pattern, or you can't really, you can't abstract everything to a complete abstraction. At some point you do have to break the pattern. And that's worth a little bit.
And the talk that you're doing later today is on WCF and REST.
That's correct.
So what are you going to dive into on that talk?
That talk is going to be a basic introduction to the REST service architecture in WCF for .NET. We are going to basically start from the ground up. I'm going to show you to get the REST starter kit off of the enterprise library packages you can get offline. And then you'll basically learn about some URL routing, some service routing, how you can actually set up your request response. We're going to build a little library to do that, so you can just pop that into all your projects, make that a little easier. Then we'll build an error service that basically logs errors, and have a little library that we can just put in different clients and quickly write to the REST. And then ultimately, we may not be able to do it through the university guest log here, but App Harbor is an awesome little free Azure kind of, it's not Azure, but it's supposed to be like Azure. It's
a cloud service.
Right, it's a cloud service, thank you. That is free, and it has a little database. So I'll show that I've already got one hosted out there in case nothing works here, but we'll hopefully try to do that too. So so just showing service hosting, working with the service, building some reusable libraries, and just kind of learning about how it actually functions as a usable service.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.